Imagine being born 200,000 years ago. No supermarkets, no farming, and absolutely no expiration dates. You're starving. You wander into a forest and find a bush covered in plump, bright red berries. They look delicious, but there's a catch. One bite could nourish your tribe or send you straight to the afterlife. So, how did our early human ancestors figure out what was safe to eat without any Google searches? It wasn't a magical sixth sense. It was a brutal, deadly game of Russian roulette with Mother Nature. Welcome to the first era of human survival, where the bravest, or just the unluckiest people, became our designated menu testers. Let's officially introduce you to our hypothetical ancestor. We'll call him Grug. Grug is hungry, tired, and desperate. His entire tribe is relying on him to find food today. When confronted with a new, unknown plant, Grug didn't just casually shove it into his mouth. Well, maybe the very first few guys did. And they didn't live long enough to pass down their genes. Over generations, early humans developed a highly systematic and incredibly stressful method to test wild plants. Survival experts today call it the Universal Edibility Test. But for Grug, it was just, try not to die today. Step 1 wasn't even eating, it was separation. Plants are tricky. A fruit might be perfectly safe, while its leaves and roots are packed with lethal toxins. So, Grug had to tear the plant apart, testing each piece individually. One mistake, and it's game over. Before the first touch, our ancestors had to fast for 8 hours. Yes, 8 hours of starving just to start the test. This ensures that if you get sick, it's actually from the plant, and not from the questionable week-old mammoth meat you ate yesterday. Step 2. The contact test. Grug crushes the plant part and rubs it directly onto the sensitive skin of his forearm. Then, he waits. 15 minutes of absolute terror, watching his own skin like a hawk to see what happens. He is looking for any sign of a reaction, redness, bumps, or a burning sensation. Nature's clear warning signs. If the skin gets angry, the test is over. You throw the plant away and wash your arm immediately. But let's say Grug is lucky. His arm is perfectly fine. Time for dinner, right? Absolutely not. Welcome to step 3, the lip test. Grug takes a tiny pinch of the plant and touches it to his outer lips. He doesn't chew. He doesn't swallow. He just leaves it resting against his lips for 3 long minutes. Why the lips? The lips have thin, highly sensitive skin packed with nerve endings that act as a prehistoric poison detector. If the plant contains strong neurotoxins or acids, his lips will quickly start to tingle, go numb, or burn like fire. A burning lip means death is near. Spit it out, wipe your mouth, and start the whole 8-hour fasting process over again with a new plant. However, after 3 minutes, Grug's lips feel completely normal. No burning, no tingling. He sighs in relief. Finally, it must be safe to eat. He prepares to shove the whole handful into his mouth. Not so fast. Surviving the lip test just means you earned the right to taste it. The real danger is the tongue. The elder knows better. The outer lips are just the perimeter defense. Now, we breach the gates. Step 4. The tongue test. Grug carefully places a small piece of the berry directly on his tongue, and then he waits again. Another agonizing 15 minutes of doing absolutely nothing. The tongue is a highly sensitive chemical analyzer. If toxic, it might go numb, turn purple, or feel like it's covered in angry ants. If that happens, Grug spits it out, scrapes his tongue with a rock, and probably cries a little. But let's assume the berry passes the tongue test. It's safe to swallow now, right? Wrong. Step 5. The chew test. Grug has to chew the plant thoroughly, releasing all its internal chemical juices. This is where many ancient foragers made their fatal mistake. They chewed, and then they happily swallowed. Grug must hold the chewed mush in his mouth for another 15 minutes without swallowing a single drop. If the juices burn his throat or make him gag, it's poison. Out it goes. Only if his mouth and throat feel perfectly fine after all this chewing does he move to the final, most terrifying step. Step 6. The swallow. He gulps down just one small bite of the chewed plant. Now the berry enters the stomach, the ultimate point of no return, the body's final defense line. And you guessed it, more waiting. Grug must now sit and monitor his stomach for another 8 agonizing hours. If he doesn't throw up, hallucinate, or pass out, congratulations, the plant is finally deemed safe. For now. Testing a single plant could take up to 24 hours of fasting, waiting, and suffering. Early humans desperately wanted a shortcut. And then, Grug had a brilliant idea. Why do all this work when nature has free taste testers everywhere? If a bird or a squirrel can eat those weird blue berries without dropping dead, it must be perfectly safe for humans, right? Grug thought he had hacked the system. He threw his safety manual away and skipped the skin, lip, and tongue tests entirely. He grabbed a giant handful of those delicious-looking blue berries and tossed them straight back. Big mistake. Within minutes, Grug's stomach was doing literal backflips. His vision blurred, and his face turned the color of the berries. What Grug didn't know is that animal biology is vastly different from human biology. Many birds and mammals have evolved specialized digestive systems. They produce different stomach acids that can easily neutralize certain toxins. Take the deadly nightshade plant, for example. Rabbits and birds eat its dark berries like candy, but a single handful of those same berries will cause a human to hallucinate, paralyze, and eventually die. The elder had to update the tribe's survival rules. Never, ever assume a plant is safe just because a bird is eating it. But there was one tiny exception to this rule: apes and monkeys. Because our closest evolutionary relatives share a very similar digestive tract to ours, if a baboon is safely eating a fruit, it's generally a green light for humans. The problem? Monkeys are really fast, and they usually eat all the good stuff at the top of the tree before we can reach it. So, back to the 24-hour test. Eventually, Grug masters the 24-hour test. He gathers a pile of seemingly safe roots and seeds. But nature plays dirty. Some plants are ninjas. They easily pass the skin, lip, and tongue tests, hiding their toxins deep inside until you digest them. Take the wild potato. To Grug, it looks like a solid chunk of energy, but it's a member of the nightshade family. Eating it raw means ingesting solanine, a natural pesticide that will give you vicious, debilitating cramps. Or take raw grains and wild wheat. Technically, they aren't poisonous, but chewing on raw, hard grass seeds will wear your teeth down to the gums, while giving you zero nutrition. And acorns? Packed with tannins that taste so bitter they'll make your face collapse and completely block your digestion. For early humans, the solution wasn't just finding food. It was figuring out how to transform it. Enter humanity's greatest survival cheat code: fire. Heat fundamentally alters plant chemistry. It breaks down tough cell walls and literally destroys toxic compounds. Suddenly, that poisonous potato becomes a soft, calorie-dense, delicious meal. But fire wasn't the only trick. Water was just as powerful. By crushing bitter acorns and soaking them in a running stream, early humans literally washed the toxic tannins away, a process called leaching. This wasn't just cooking. This was prehistoric chemistry. Preparing food became just as important as hunting for it. So, next time you enjoy a plate of fries or a loaf of bread, take a moment to thank the thousands of ancient humans who died discovering how to make it safe. Cooking didn't just expand our ancient menu, it fundamentally altered the human body forever. Eating raw wild plants requires a massive amount of physical energy just to digest and break down the tough fibers. In fact, If you tried to survive entirely on wild, raw foliage today, you would spend up to 6 hours a day just chewing. Look at gorillas or chimpanzees. Notice how they have massive, protruding bellies? That's because they need enormous, complex intestines to constantly ferment and break down endless pounds of tough plant fibers. Millions of years ago, our early ancestors looked quite similar. We had giant guts to process all that raw foliage, but then we effectively outsourced our digestion to the campfire. Cooking is essentially pre-digestion. Fire breaks down the complex carbohydrates and tough proteins before they even enter your mouth. Because the food was now softer and vastly richer in accessible calories, our bodies simply didn't need to work as hard. Over hundreds of thousands of years, an amazing evolutionary shift occurred. Our massive digestive tracts began to shrink. We lost the giant gut. But shrinking a massive organ created an incredible biological surplus. Digestion takes about 20% of your body's total energy. By outsourcing it to fire, early humans suddenly had a massive excess of calories. Evolution took all that saved energy and redirected it upward, straight to the brain. The human brain is a massive energy hog. Without calorie-dense, easy-to-digest cooked meals, our brains could never have grown this large. So the fact that you can understand this video right now is entirely thanks to some desperate caveman who accidentally dropped a potato into a fire. But even fire couldn't conquer everything. Some plants, like wild cassava or certain beans, remained deadly even after roasting. They contained complex cyanides that literally laughed in the face of simple heat. So, our ancestors took it a step further. They invented fermentation, leaching, and long-term burying. Instead of waiting 24 hours, they waited days, weeks, or even months. They let bacteria do the hard work, breaking down the poisons until the food was completely safe to eat. It smelled absolutely terrible, but it kept the tribe alive through the harshest winters. Fast forward to today. We walk into supermarkets and buy whatever we want without a single second thought. We don't have to rub our lunch on our arms or wait 8 hours to see if our throat closes up. We enjoy a safe, calorie-rich diet today only because millions of years ago, someone had to play Russian roulette with a mystery berry. So the next time you enjoy a simple salad or a loaf of bread, take a moment to respect the real heroes of history. The nameless, brave, and incredibly unlucky taste testers who sacrificed their stomachs for our survival. Grug may not have made it into the history books, but his legacy lives on in every bite we take. Thanks, Grug. We owe you one. If you want to survive more crazy historical deep dives, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Stay curious, stay primal, and we will see you in the next one.